Okay, Commissioners, so we are live, and this is going to be our fifth mic for the day. So for those folks that will be speaking into the
Same for me.
so we are currently unmuted, and we lost access to the stream into Zoom, but we logged back in. We are currently live streamed, and now we're ready to go. It's unmuted, so this is now an active mic.
Thanks so much. That was all.
You go ahead.
I'll put this on a chair.
You said you can't log into Zoom here no more?
Yeah, it's get locked up. So we'll put this on a chair. Want to try this computer?
Can you open the link to that week that you sent everybody yesterday?
I don't even have the emails up on this computer. I just have them on here. I haven't
That is with video.
yeah. Look here.
Mm-hmm.
Should I just do this? Should I get rid of this?
Join.
So I tried to zoom in. I put it. Yeah. So do we need a second? Do we? Oh. Thank you. I'll just do a little intro. And then we'll have Jabari Brew and Joe Sestat. Jabari is from Urban Forestry, and Joe is from Bloomingdale's Civic Association Beautification Committee. So this is going to be about trees and everything related. So I just want to say that everybody's sign-ups for working groups and committees are on the back table over there if anybody wants to sign up. And if you're interested in seeing this online, just email me or call me 202-651-0581 or 5D03@anc.dc.gov, and I'll give you a list of our working groups and our committees, 5D committees. I just want to say on March 4th, we're going to have a guest here at our meeting here at Jilco from the Department of Buildings. Mark Anthony Tynes and Director Hanlon will both be here in person, which is amazing. And that'll be March 4th for our March meeting. And then our April meeting, which is April 1st, will be Zachary Parker. So I hope everybody can come out to those meetings as well. Thank you so much. And here's Joe and Jabari. And this is a mic, so we can just hold it and talk.
All right. We do 140, they can see out. Yeah. All right. Good afternoon. How everybody doing? My name is Jabari Brew. I work with the Department of Transportation, DDOT, Urban Forestry. Basically, my main job is to manage the trees in Ward 5, the south part of Ward 5. I manage this area, Trinidad, Ivy City, Bloomingdale, and a little bit of Noma, North Capitol, Florida Avenue. So my main goal is to really try to keep the tree canopy in these areas and try to protect it and try to basically manage pruning. I manage pruning, removals, and planting. Planting is one of the big things we're doing right now. Right now, we're in the planting season, so we got like 3 more months left to go in the planting season. And yes, so my main thing is to answer 311 calls. So if you put a 311 call through Urban Forestry, which will go to the call center, then it will come to me. I will come out and I will look at the tree, whether it's hazardous or not. I make that determination. So that's basically what I do. That's the basis of my job.
So I'm Joe Levesque. I'm with the Bloomingdale Civic Association on the Beautification Committee. I love working with Jabari. He is just fantastic. I'm sure you'll enjoy working with him also. If it happens, I had the opportunity to yet. About 15 years ago, I called Urban Forestry out to look at some of the blocks on Bloomingdale, and one particular block, it was a long block. There was almost no trees at all, and it was Robert Pauletta.
Mm-hmm.
He looked at it, he said, "It looks like an atomic bomb went off." Well, I hope your tree canopy here is a little better than that one block. Now, 15 years later, maybe 12 years, something like that, there's 54 or more new trees on that block, and they're beautiful. It's nice variety. They require a lot of trimming. That's why Jabari comes out and regularly trims them up. But we've already met Andrew and Anna and now Lindsay here. But we had a little walkthrough in Bloomingdale, and we tried to describe what the different variety of trees look like. And in the wintertime, you can actually see the structure of the trees, how a lot of them are not huge. So most of them are 20 feet tall. Some of them are a little taller than that, 30, 40 feet tall. So we explained, what we want you to do, I think is a great idea, is go through the neighborhood, encourage people to call 311 if they think there's an empty space that they want to treat. And we encourage shade trees because shade trees, they cool the streets and the sidewalks. They reduce sound a little bit. Reduces global warming because the trees capture the carbon, and it beautifies the neighborhood. So shade trees are really what the city wants to plant, because they really do want a covering. Basically, they want the entire street covered if they can do that. all the way across to create shade. But there's also, so, you know, you should try to get people to, you know, put out emails, whatever it is, and get people to call in 311. The Mario will go out and look and see if it's a suitable spot for a tree. Sometimes you can't plant them because there's a water main, and then there's electrical wire, and then there's sewer, and they're all together in front of the house, too close, and then you can't plant a tree there. You might be able to plant in the next tree box. So, you know, someone may want something, but it might have to be over there instead of immediately in front of their house. And there's also understory trees. So we explain the trees have to be about 40 feet apart because, you know, 40 feet this is more than 40 feet. It's probably more like 50 feet or so. But anyhow, trees have to be about 40 feet enough, especially the shade trees, because they got to grow about 20 feet each direction from the trunk. So you can put in understory trees, which are smaller ornamental trees in the middle of those trees. So like red buds, things of that nature. Some magnolias, some of the small magnolias grow fairly tall and upright, but they're not the big ones. That's a southern magnolia. So it's nice also to have, and small cherry trees, sometimes a little smaller too. You can sometimes put those in the middle. It depends on, you know, what the conditions are. So certain trees that they planted a few years ago, they're not planting anymore because global warming. You say most of the maples now is too warm for them?
Yeah, so part of the maples is the spire lanternfly. So that's supposed to come, it's supposed to come in DC, but it's not here yet. Like, so thousands, it's not like here where it's like ash, like the ash wood or such. It's not like that, but they mostly come on the maples. So that's why we stopped planting the maples.
Yeah. So certain trees which you might like, they're not going to plant them. They'll let you know that. But maples are one, and Craig Reynolds had some problems years ago, but they're really not shade trees. So I mean, they're pretty, but they don't plant a whole lot of them, I guess. And also certain trees, you know, you basically when you get a tree and it's in a sidewalk and there's a street right there, you know, moving trucks come in, dump trucks, construction, whatever it is, street sweepers. And if the tree doesn't sort of grow up and out, then that's a problem. A tree that's going to grow round and wide, and those branches are going to get hit. So he's in charge of like trying to get those branches trimmed up so that those branches don't get damaged. And then if they could also kill the tree if it's too badly damaged. And if you know, it's been a one-man show in Bloomingdale pretty much. I was the one that went around and constantly talked to Jabari, you know, or other urban forestry arborists. But it's the whole neighborhood that has to water the trees. So that's important this first couple of years. So however you got to do it, you got to get the trees watered. You know, I don't. Do you have a listserv or anything like that here in the neighborhood? You do. That's, you know, if our weather's hot, it's been, you know, we haven't had any rain. Just go out and put a couple of gallons of water on the trees. Just to keep them alive. And you know, it depends on the rain. And they do require about 10 gallons of water a week. That's the best thing, as we explained on this walkthrough. You want to get the water to go way down in the ground so that the roots will grow down. It doesn't do a lot of good to water a tree. It actually harms a tree if you just water it on top every day, because the roots are going to kind of grow up to the top, and that's not where they should be. They should be developing a good footing in the ground. So that's why it's important to give a lot of water at one time, once a week, or maybe even twice a week if it's that hot. And there's bags. Jabari, they usually provide bags. They're green. You might have seen them around. A little slit in them, and you put the water right in there as best you can. You know, 5-gallon bucket of water helps. And that's important and you know, it helps the tree get established and grow. It'll be that much faster. And as I was telling Andrew about the smaller trees, you know, they're only small diameter. Don't worry, those will actually almost do better sometimes than a bigger tree, because they got a smaller root ball, and you know, when they have to put them in the ground, they have to chop a lot of those roots off because the tree's too big, and that hurts the tree. It slows it down. So if it's a smaller tree, that could establish roots more easily, and that tree could actually grow faster in the long run, within 5 years. And you can't overwater a tree. It's almost impossible to overwater a tree. The city, don't count on the city doing it. They only water trees once a year. One time, they'll do it. They just don't have the manpower to do it. There's not enough people. So that's not going to help out. You know, if you're going to try to beautify a tree box, you don't want to. You want the water runoff of the runoff of the sidewalk to go into the tree box. That helps water the trees. But also, if you're going to put anything in the tree box, if you start raising up the soil and you put bricks or anything like that around it, that's going to prevent the water from going in there, and it's just not good. So, if you're going to plant anything in the tree boxes, you know, try to amend the soil. And there's only a few things that will really do well. And you got to water those perennials. They just take a lot of water. And liriope is one of the things that does work. I don't know. Do you like liriope in those boxes? You don't like that either.
So invasive.
It's a waste.
Too invasive.
Too invasive. Yeah. Once they start getting established. So there's very few things you can really put in the tree box. Roses are not good because people try to get out of their cars and they look pretty, but they got to be trimmed back. There's diseases called witch's broom, and it'll kill the tree. It's mites, basically. If you don't want to raise the level of the soil in a tree box, keep it down. I don't know. You know, it's been 5 or 10 years since a lot of these trees have been planted in our neighborhood. Some longer. It's just really a delight to just walk down the street and see these beautiful trees developing. And one more thing I just remembered is we try to think of like 4 seasons or at least 3 seasons when you're planting a tree. Think of variety, but also something about summer, what the leaves look like in the summer, a variety of leaves. Some look like, you know, Christmas trees. They got the little needles. Others are just tiny little leaves the size of your finger. And others are big, giant leaves, like sycamores. But it's nice to have that variety and the structure, the tree structure. But also fall color is important. Getting some of the trees for beautiful fall color, like almost maroon, like the color of Andrew's shirt. And it's just really gorgeous colors on some of them. Oranges and yellows, and that really is nice in the fall. And some of these trees will last a month or two with color. They don't just change color and drop their leaves. Like sweet gums. Sweet gums will keep their leaves until Christmas time. They'll start changing in October. Other trees start changing in September. And I told Anna that if you're trying to develop a beautification committee, and or whatever it is, and I'd be happy to answer any questions. So if you want to email me, you can do that. Jabari too, of course, answer questions. But again, it's just that's I think the best thing you can do is try to restore that tree canopy, and it's something that you'll be delighted with. The last 100 years, or it's really improves the life of your neighborhood and the feel and the look and the beauty. It's just a great thing to do. Any questions?
Mic, right? Is this the mic, right? Oh. Okay, that's one for the front. Okay.
If you could hold it up a little closer, that'd be helpful too.
All right, there you go. Can you hear me now?
Perfect, thank you.
Hello? Okay, this is better?
So in terms of requesting trees, does the person who lives there have to submit the 311 request, or can other people submit on their behalf?
No, anybody can submit a request anywhere. So y'all have one person who walks around, he submits a request for everywhere. So all over Trinidad mostly. So it could be, you could be in Bloomingdale and still submit a request for Trinidad if you see empty space. So it doesn't matter who will submit a request.
And when the request is submitted, do people request the type of tree that they want, or do you generally decide that? So it's just kind of like the request is just for another tree and then you choose what's best, or how does the tree choice itself work?
So with me, it's a combination of all those things. So if you want a certain tree and that area is like applicable for that, say you had no wires or you do have wires. If you do have wires, then I'm gonna plant something that's understory. And we can talk about what kind of understory tree you want. But if you don't have wires, then we gotta plant some big canopy tree. Unless you have a street full of trees that's covering the area that where we could like stick a small tree in between, then yeah. But if it's a big space, then I try to go big trees. But I try to consult with the person who lives there because you got to live with the tree.
Yeah.
So I try to consult with you and say like, okay, you may want, instead of an oak, you may want a tulip. Or instead of tulip, you may want a London plane. So we can work that out. As long as the space is right for it, right tree, right place. Yes.
And does the city fund all of the tree requests? Like, do you have a number of trees that can be planted here, or is it just kind of unlimited, or?
No. Because so like this year we're planting like over like about 4,000. So we normally try to plant all the work orders that we schedule in that time frame. So we could so right now we plant all the work orders we have scheduled from probably June, May of last year, all the way up until about May of this year.
Yeah.
So I think the nursery has thousands of trees. So unless the nursery runs out of stock, certain trees they may run out of stock of, but most likely they mainly have enough to plant.
Gotcha. Thank you.
I have a comment also. Is this working? I forgot what it was to talk about. A lot of times you'll see a tree that doesn't look very healthy, and you'll know that it's been there for a long time, or it might even be just 5 or 6, 7 years. And if it's not doing well, old Jabari, especially an older tree, sometimes they're like Norway maples, and they're really weed trees. They don't even plant them anymore. And he'll look at it, and the city has a policy that if there's this small tree that's, maybe 10 feet across, not a big canopy. It's what do you call it? A head? Yeah. They'll take it down, and they don't like to take a tree out that if they don't have to, but that's one time where they'll remove it. They'll evaluate it, and if it's not really going to do well or get any bigger, they'll remove it and put in a tree that will do something. And my philosophy is, sometimes it's a tree that's dying slowly, and I just tell you, let's just get rid of it. Let's get started. And it takes a while to cut these trees down. It might be a year or two or more. They cut them down, and then they got to get the root out of the ground, and then they'll plant it. So it could be 3 or 4 years.
Normally it depends. It's verb.
Yeah, depends on, if you had a big storm, a lot of trees came down, you're going to be at the bottom of the line, at the bottom of the list. But if it's normal times, it might not take that long. But I've seen sometimes long time. So don't be afraid to just look around, take some, and have a look at the condition of trees.
So I had 2 ANC questions. We recently, over the past couple of years, last year we got part of Montello Avenue. We got that whole block. We got DDOT through the council member's office, that's the point, to trim up a lot of those trees. I was telling you earlier that I personally trimmed them because we had a death on that block. A boy got hit by a car, and the side of vision was blocked by a lot of the shrubs there. The trees looked like bushes. So I trimmed them up high enough for people to see if cars were coming, hopefully to prevent another accident. You all came back and trimmed them up higher, which is, good. Right?
Oh, yeah.
And then 2 years before that, we needed more lighting on Rom Street. That's one of our trench spots. And when I mean trenches, like the trenches of a lot of the crime and nonsense that we're dealing with. McDuffie got a DDOT also to clear up that block to bring in more light. So the trees are very low, now they're a lot higher, so now we have a lot more light there. Do we have to go through our council member to get blocks like that taken care of by DDOT, or is the ANC able to do a letter? Because from what you're saying, it's more like a 3-1 request, take care of this tree, but some of our blocks just need major, improvement when it comes to pruning particularly.
Yeah, so the number one thing is the planning of the 3-1 request. That's the first thing. But if you need something special, you can always contact me. I will leave you with my card. my email with my number, and if you need it, something like, okay, a block, maybe, like you said, someone got hurt or something like that, we normally act on that immediately. So if it's something like that, I could probably get it done immediately. If it's an emergency situation where there's light issues, somebody just got robbed or something, or crime or something, and you need light in that area, I could get a crew to prone that.
Yeah, y'all are pretty quick. I think it's been 2 or 3 months, and that's pretty quick for DC government.
Yeah.
I know that's slow as hell, but that's pretty quick for y'all.
Yeah.
So I do appreciate the effort there, because, I mean, some neighbors don't notice those small things, but they do make a difference when it comes to these kind of situations.
Yeah.
That's one thing. The second thing was, we had a situation on Montello. Montello is my busy children. Montello Avenue, there was a neighbor that moved in. There was a tree that was in front of their home, their new property, and these are building. They own the building. They own the home. As soon as they got there, they requested the mayor's office to cut the tree. I saw recently that y'all put a tree there, and I feel like we wasted like 10 or 15 years on one tree that was already there, and now putting on this little itty-bitty tree that's going to take another 10 years to replace what was there. Is there like a law in terms of what trees were originally there and what you're placing again? Because I feel like it was a waste of government services.
Oh, we supposed to plant empty spaces. So I have, like, we're supposed to plant empty spaces. That's our job, to plant empty spaces. So I have, like, in his neighborhood, I got one person that destroys a tree every year, and I replace it. But, sometimes it gets to the point where it's like you said, does it really, does it really matter? Because, it's hard to kind of pinpoint who destroyed the tree, because if you don't have camera evidence or picture evidence, somebody saying who destroyed the tree, it's hard to kind of find a person. So, but I try to, replant. Maybe, the person moved, or maybe something happened to, that, the tree now can stay here. So, but we supposed to replace trees with trees. I mean, that's part of my job.
And then I know we mentioned the footage in terms of how much feet you need in between trees. I know a lot about trees myself, because I planted all of them. But when I planted pecan trees, I planted them too close, because then after 15 years, it started touching a little bit. And what you were saying about the 40-foot range, I understand that. How many trees are too many trees in a block?
It varies. Like, this block is a long block. So you might have, I don't know how, but I could guesstimate probably 15 to 20 on each side. But, but then you have, what's this right here? Montello. You got a short block, and you might have 10 trees. So it all varies, but I try to space my trees. Big canopy trees, at least minimum is 30 feet apart.
Okay.
So at the minimum is 30 feet. So I try to place big canopy trees. So oaks, London plains, large story trees, I try to do 30 feet apart. Now the small trees, like sweet bays, red buds, silver bells, crab apples, like little small trees, we try to do 15 feet apart. So as you see, like on Bladensburg, if you go on Bladensburg, you may see all the trees close together. I don't know if you're familiar with like Bladensburg, or like right off Bladensburg and Montana. If you go right off Bladensburg and Montana, with the Metro bus depot is, you'll see a row of crab apples, you'll see a row of sweet bays, and they're like 15 feet apart. So small trees we can do 15 feet apart. Big canopy trees 30 feet apart at the minimum.
Okay. So are you saying if the space permits, residents can keep requesting to place more trees on a block?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then the decision then is up to DDOT whether they can do this. So.
Yes.
Pardon me, sorry. In reference to that, when is there a ratio? Because you bring up a very good point. The trees are great, but then the lighting is affected. Who assesses what is the most ideal option for a street as far as like the tree versus the lighting? Because for Rom Street, I know exactly what he's referring to. That area made a huge difference. I can imagine it makes a huge difference.
I do. So I make the decisions about every tree that goes on in this whole neighborhood. So whether it's spacing, whether it's pruning, whether it's removal, whether it's unhealthy, not unhealthy, like I got the final decision over every tree. But I try not to crowd the block, so that's why I do 30 feet apart. Because we don't want block crowding. Because it comes with the trees competing on each other, people hide behind trees, stuff like that. It's like it's a lot, cover the light and stuff like that. So I try to stick with 30 feet apart. And if it's too close, I won't plant. It's like you said, if someone bushes the tree, sometimes I won't plant, but we supposed to. So, because that's what, we required to do. That's my job, is to plant restore, replenish the tree canopy in this neighborhood.
Is there a requirement to let people know that you're removing a tree?
Yes and no. So for planting, we do leave brochures. So for planting, anytime we're gonna plant, we're supposed to leave a brochure. But for removal, no. We just remove it based upon the condition. Like we only remove trees that are hazardous. So if the tree is not hazardous, then we won't remove it. Like y'all have a tree right here in front, it has an orange dot on it. That tree, the canopy is nice, but if you look at the bottom of the tree, there's decay, there's fungi all around it. So I mean, it's a potential hazard because now you have a playground right in front of the tree, so it's a potential hazard. So that tree is eventually going to get removed.
This meeting's being recorded, I'm sorry. Can you clarify a public space tree and a non-public space tree?
Okay, so a public space tree is the tree that's outside there, outside in the public space in the street in the D-dot right away. A non-public space tree is a tree that's on private property. And also, trees that are on the recreation center, those are non-public space trees. Those are either under the jurisdiction of DPR, DGS, and other, police. But I still manage that though. I don't manage no trees in private property. So for the private property, you have to. I do manage, but I don't. Like I can't tell you not. I can't prune the tree. I can't cut the tree down. But the part I do manage on private property is if you want to remove the tree, you have to put in a special tree permit. So you cannot remove no tree without a special tree permit. Nobody can. If there is, please call 311. We will come out, and either that person is going to get a citation or fine, or they got to stop.
That's DDOT or another agency?
That's through DDOT. So you will put a 311 request, inspection, say, look, somebody's removing a tree illegally. I'll come out. I'll stop them if they're in the middle of it, and I'll make them get a permit, or I will fine them if they cut down the tree that's non-hazardous. They got to pay whatever the fine is.
And then one final question about the watering.
Sure.
In my single-member district in northern Trinidad, a majority of the folks that live there are tenants like myself. We don't own the property.
Okay.
So a lot of the building owners, they don't, some of them are good, some of them are not really good at managing the properties, the land itself. So are you saying the responsibility to water the trees are technically on the building owner?
It's not. I mean, it's not like you have to do it, but we just recommend you do it. It's like if you want your tree to survive, the best thing is to water it. So whether it's you, whether the person that's a couple doors down, however, like we just recommend that people take care of the trees because we can't do every single thing. Like I don't have a watering truck. If I did, I'd water it, and I don't have one. So we just, ask the Davis to give us a little helping hand. That's all.
I walked in when you were saying it earlier, but is there a recommendation, just like he was asking about watering the trees, there are recommendations of like how much we water for the different type of trees? I know he was saying it earlier, and I walked in right around that time.
Yes. So most trees take 10 gallons, which they put a water bag on. So 10 gallons, at least 10 gallons a week. That's if we don't get like a hot, dry summer with. Yes, once per week. That's if we don't have a dry summer. If we have a dry summer where we go through a heat spell where there's no rain for months and weeks, then we require you at least water the tree twice a week. So that's the only time. And that's for only like 2 months because it don't really get hot until about June, until about late August. So for those 2 months, you may got to double up on the watering.
Do you show up to do best practice on how to water trees properly? Because the gentleman was kind of explaining a lot of good information that a lot of residents typically don't.
All right.
I ain't talking about a brochure. Come on, you show up and like, this is how you do it.
All right. So when I show up and plant the trees, so I plant on Fridays anyway. Y'all may see me on Friday riding around with a tree planting crew with a rock of trees on the back of a trailer. So after we plant the tree, we're supposed to leave this brochure in front of your door. So this brochure basically tells you how to water the trees. It tells you it gives you a step-on-step guideline how to water the trees. It tells you what not to do, not to prune the trees. It has right here do's, do nots, and don'ts. So it gives you basically all the instructions on what to do once you get your tree. So, yeah. So I tried to leave a brochure at everybody's door. Who I feel like is going to like actually read it and not toss it.
I see you walk around with the measuring tape and stuff. So I know you out.
No, I just update trees. When I do that, I'm just updating the trees because we were required to update the trees, keep up with the DBH and all that stuff for purposes of like pruning and contract and stuff. So they have to have the size class because each tree comes in a like different size class. So that's why you will see me walking around measuring the trees.
I got two final questions. Anyone else can ask them? I don't want to take up.
Oh, before we forget, could you guys both give your email addresses so people can contact you?
Okay. I can leave you some cards, or I can just say it. You want me to say it?
Yeah.
Okay. So my email is my first name, which is JABBARI .BREW@dc.gov. My phone number is 202-438-7949.
Joe, do you want to as well? People contact you. Thanks so much.
Sure. First name is Joe, last name is Lez, like a Victor, ESQUE, and the email is joebc111@verizon.net.
Now, I have another question. Like, could you guys explain the importance of the tree canopy?
You want to do it? You want me to do it? Okay. So yeah, the tree canopy has a ton of importance. The number one thing is oxygen. Trees help us breathe, so we need trees because they take away the carbon dioxide that that we breathe in. It replaces the carbon dioxide with oxygen. That's the first thing. Also, like Joe was mentioned earlier, like shade, tree help with shade. If it's hot outside, you stand in a sunny area, it's going to be 10 degrees hotter than it is. It's going to be 10 degrees cooler under the tree as opposed to just being in a beaming sun. Also, is there for the wildlife, birds, squirrels, insects. They all feed off the tree fruits, and birds nest in trees. Squirrels eat the food, so it's also a environment thing, as well as also other benefits like when you have a tree that's in your house. For like it helps with the light bill and stuff like that. There's plenty of other benefits I go on all day, but those are the main things.
And how is Trinidad doing generally? What do we need to do to get us in good shape?
One thing I love about Trinidad is they have old trees. Like Trinidad has a bunch of huge old how they call it, old trees, like really big, like in all different varieties, from willow oaks to Zucovus to London plains, linden. It's a big linden right here that everybody try to get rid of. The one that's leaning right here on the corner. That's a linden that's on the corner. He has a big oak. He has two big oaks in front of his house, and there's two big oaks right here. And it was a willow oak right here that I just removed. So that's one thing about Trinidad. It has a lot of big trees. And what I try to do here is I try to replace those big trees when they come down with trees that's going to eventually be big, just like they was.
Do we need to plant a lot more to be in good shape?
Yes, there's plenty. I think Trinidad it's not much open space, but there's a majority. There's probably like 20%, maybe 30% open space probably. But a lot of the big spaces, there isn't any like large gaps. So you won't see you won't go to a block and see there's no trees. You may go to a block, it may be a gap where one tree may be 40 feet and the other tree may be 40 feet. Or maybe one tree on a block. Like I know it's one street where you got one tree on a whole strip. That's because of, like you said, utility conflicts, could be spacing conflicts, and just overall, only one tree can fit in that space.
And you work in other parts of 5D, right? Not just Trinidad. Where else do you work in 5D?
I'm not sure about the 5D. No, yes. So my neighborhoods is Trinidad, Ivy City, Bloomingdale, Saratoga. I have Saratoga. I have and Florida Avenue, which is part of Noma, Florida Avenue, and North Capitol, where the Wendy's used to be. That's part of my area as well. But I have North Capitol all the way up until Washington Hospital Center. So the what's that project right there? I forget. The big one, the park that they just did. The park on First Street, the park that they just McMillan, yes. Yes, McMillan. McMillan is one of my other big projects that I'm also doing. So I just was over there a couple of weeks ago.
I'd like to make a couple of comments. We talk about understory trees when you have telephone lines or electric lines up above. Serviceberry is a great tree. It blooms white in the spring and covers with white flowers. And in the summer, by June, there's these almost like a blueberry. They almost taste like an almond. And you can pick them and bake with them, make pancakes, make pies, and they're delicious. And also, a lot of people say, "Oh, I don't want a tree in my front yard because I have to rake the leaves." The city does that. They come out twice a year, and they will rake all the leaves. They'll suck them up. All you got to do is, even if you don't put them in a pile, they will go along and they'll sweep them up and rake them up and pick them up. And then one more thing about what's important about a tree canopy. During the day, that heat hits the pavement and the sidewalks, and then at night it radiates heat. So if you've got shade, that keeps it cooler at night, and you might be able to open your windows in June and maybe the end of August. Whereas if you don't have shade trees, that pavement will radiate heat all night long, and it's hard to cool down. So shade trees are really wonderful for nighttime, opening your windows. Maybe not in July, but other times.
Two questions, Jabari. Do y'all take a log of heritage trees in the neighborhoods? Do you take notes of that, like where they're located and stuff?
Yes. So for the heritage trees on private property, they are all inventory. So you could go on trees.dc.gov, and that'll show you every tree in the city that we inventory. Also, it'll show you the work orders on that tree, and also it'll show you if someone has a tree permit. So if someone's cutting down a tree in their yard, you could go to trees.dc.gov and look and see if they got a permit. If they don't, you can report it to me. A lot of people don't know that, so they just report it anyway. But that's still good if you report it anyway. Even if you don't go to that website and you just report it, that's fine. If you like unsure somebody illegally removing the tree without a permit.
And in northern Trinidad specifically, that part of Trinidad used to be where more the poorer residents, like 100 years ago, you pretty much would, build houses. And over the first couple of decades in the last century, they had a lot of fruit trees. And in one alley, particularly between Rom and Niggs, there's a lot of blackberry trees, a lot of blackberry trees. But we're getting a whole lot of developers buying those multi-unit buildings and turning them into condos. Yeah. They're just cutting down the trees. Yeah. Is there anything that we could do to address those things? Because to me, it's historic. To me, it's reverence to the folks that are no longer here, and they left something behind for us. But it's just sad seeing a lot of them less and less and less and less. Is there anything that we can do to address the concern at least?
Well, what I tell people to do is just buy the property. If you buy the property, you can do what you want with it. But it's like far as like your question, to answer your question directly, if the tree is heritage and non-hazardous,
can you clarify what heritage is for the
so
folks that don't know?
So heritage is any tree that's over 100 in circumference, which is about 31 and a half in diameter. So anything that's 100 in circumference is considered a heritage tree in Washington, D.C. So heritage trees, we normally protect those, but like special trees, anything that's under 100 inches, which is 99 on down, which would probably be in diameter about 31 on down, they can remove them, but they have to pay into the tree fund. So, and then, also, let me get to the other bushes.
So heritage trees can technically be cut down on private property if they pay into this fund, or no?
Say that again?
Heritage trees, they can technically be cut down if they're...
If it's hazardous, only if it's hazardous.
Even if it's on private property?
Yes, they can't be cut down. They can't cut it down. Like it's a big heritage tree right across here. Mm-hmm. And the developer was going up and, the lady was mad. She was like, they cut down my tree. They trying to cut my tree. We could find them if they, did something to the tree. If they harm the tree or cause the tree to go into a hazardous state. So we can only remove heritage trees if they are hazardous.
Okay, so I know the, one example of a heritage tree getting cut down by a developer was in Ivy City off of, I want to say maybe Capitol Avenue. I'm not remembering the street right now off the top of my head, but clearly the developer cut down this huge tree. Like, it looked like it'd been there for.
But this in the newspaper?
I don't recall if it was in the newspaper.
Yeah, I know one. I know they did one a couple of years ago. It was in Southeast. I forgot exactly where it was in Southeast, but a couple of my colleagues was on that project. The developer pulls in all the trees, and there's a lot of heritage trees. And they pulls in the trees, and they did find them. I think it was like $30,000 a tree. So yeah. So they just basically get a fine. So they gotta pay double amount they would have paid if the tree was like non-hazardous.
What is, sorry, pardon me. I mean,
Nah, no problem. Y'all can ask me questions y'all want.
what is a heritage tree? Like, how would we know? Like, are there like markers on them or anything like that?
No, so you wouldn't know unless you measure it. So we don't mark the trees because that's not something we kind of do unless you measure it. So you would need like a diameter tape, a tape called diameter tape.
Yeah. Not like that big.
Yeah.
31 inches across approximately.
And
The circumference is about, what'd you say, 100 something?
100 and so, yeah, anything over 100 in circumference. Yeah, so like the ones out here is borderline. I think these are kind of borderline. The ones out front here, these are probably borderline. The one in front of his house is definitely heritage. So you want to know heritage, you just go up front of, it's out. He has a big oak tree that's like huge.
Technically, if you can't hug it, it's almost most likely.
Yeah. I mean, I can't hug a 19-inch tree. Only trees I can hug is anything from like around about 15, and 19 is not considered heritage. 19 is considered special.
We don't carry tape like that, so I'm just thinking like. So I don't even know. Okay, gotcha. Thank you.
I just want to tell y'all about these. So most of the time when you remove trees, you could plant a tree for free. So you could so we had this special tree replacement program. So anytime, like I say, the developer comes, you remove all the trees, he can replace the tree for free. I think tree for tree with this program, as long as he signs up after he removes the trees. Casey Trees does the planting for this. We don't do it. DDOT does this. Casey Trees contracted through DDOT to plant trees on private property.
So it would like, say the tree close to a house is maybe like this wide, and they want to remove it because it's a danger to the foundation, they would have a permit, they wouldn't have to pay the tree fund, right?
Yeah, you have to pay the tree fund, but you got to get a architect report.
So certified.
Yeah, to certify to make sure that the tree is damaging the foundation of your house, because you need evidence of that.
Yeah.
So you have to get the architect permit for that.
One more thing,
Go ahead.
I think there's some trees also that you could cut down with, you might have to get a permit, but like a mulberry tree, isn't a mulberry tree one of them? It's like weed trees. If they're in your yard, the city will say you can absolutely take it down, there's no fine, you don't have to pay for it, but you still have to get a permit because they want to make sure, is that correct? That it's a mulberry?
It's good to get a permit because people are saying like cutting down trees illegally, but it's like 4 trees that's exempt. It's tree of Atlantis, tree of heaven, which is called Atlantis. Mulberry, what's the other one? It's one more that I can't think of my head. Mulberry, I can't think of it. But I know Mulberry, Tree Atlantis are the number ones. And I think it's another one. Cattoppers is another one that I kind of like, yeah, they got a lot of decay in them and stuff. So if I accepted those as well in certain cases.
But if you see someone cutting a tree, take a photograph because you have to actually they can say, hey, that tree was cut years ago. But they take a photograph to prove that they were actually cutting that tree down and then report it right away. I've done that, and it was probably a legacy tree, and they said, well, we're just trimming it up. But that really wasn't the truth. You have to have a permit to trim a tree, like a large tree. No. Say it's a legacy, a heritage tree.
No. You just can't trim more than 25%. So that's kind of like go. So yeah, as long as you don't butcher it or line tell it, as long as you don't butcher or line tell, it's okay. But we don't recommend people prune palisade trees. A lot of people don't know how to do it. It's a certain way you have to do it. How to prune tree. People leave stubs and people just cut off half of the limb. They don't cut off the whole limb down to the trunk. So like it's supposed to be.
So I was trimming one on Montella, and
Okay.
I found a wasp nest inside of it.
I know what you talking about. That just stung me in my face like 2 weeks ago. It's right on the
Oh
corner.
no, this happened last
Among-
year. There was
last
another
year.
one.
Yeah, you get this last year. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
1600 Montella.
What's the 100 block? Do you know, Lindsay, for right there on Montello? 1700 block, I think. It was a 1700 block. When we report those wasp nests, is DDOT, even though it's a tree situation, is it DPW that's taking care of that, or DDOT?
Okay, that's an excellent question. Because there's so many wasp nests in these trees, you would be amazed. Like I'm always riding around finding the wasp nest in the tree. But and I got stung by one of them because I was pruning the tree. I was like, right in the face.
Oh, gotcha.
So what I do is people do put in 311 requests for wasp nests. But so all I do is I put in another 311 request to rodent patrol. Rodent patrol comes in and they get rid of the nest. Yeah, rodent control. The people that ride around that do pest management, rodent control. Yeah. So I have their number on dial, so I can just. So if you do see a wasp nest, I can just call them, and they'll come and remove it. Yeah. They normally fast. Because those wasp nests are very dangerous. It's very dangerous.
Thank you.
All right.
Maybe I have a question.
Okay.
In this brochure, it says the district has a goal of 40% tree canopy coverage by 2032. Canopy right now is about 37%. What do they mean by tree canopy?
Tree canopy means basically the tree coverage. So if you're looking above satellite view, if you see like Google View or any satellite imagery, you will see like a sea of green. That's basically what the tree canopy is. The canopy coverage that covers the that square footage or space or whatever. So like, every tree has a certain square foot or canopy coverage. I don't know that by heart, but that's what canopy coverage. The coverage that covers the overall square footage of
A mature
land or whatever.
A mature one.
Yeah, mature one, yeah.
Right.
But small trees have canopy too, just have small canopies. But they don't have like large canopies. They do have canopies. Small canopies.
I guess the question is, do you guys remove those, or do they just kind of fall? Or if they are removed, is that like frequent watering, or does the tree need watering continually throughout its life?
Yes, good question. So it all depends. I'm gonna cross the water around. So after the first 3 years, the tree is good to go. They say 2, but the reason why I say 3, because sometimes trees get planted late in the season. So let's say a tree get planted in late 2023. I would say keep watering until 2026, because it got planted late in 2023. So I would keep watering it for like 3 years. And as far as the watering bags go, we've removed them after 2 years. We've removed the water bags and the stakes after 2 years. So all the trees should have stakes on them, and they should have water bags. And if you see a tree leaning, please call me. I will come and restake it, because sometimes they lean because people hit them with ours, damaged trees, all that. So if you see a tree that like needs restaking, just put it through on request, and we'll have someone. I'll come out, or we'll have someone come out and restake the tree.
Yeah. And if you do see one, a lot of bugs can live under those trees, because it's moist and it's conditions for rot. So they really shouldn't be there very long. If you see one there and the tree's it's been there for a few years, just unzip it. You could easily unzip it and remove it. And then another bad thing about when you're using a water bag like that, water's confined to a small area. Well, the roots are starting to grow out from the tree. And those roots that are the furthest from the tree are the ones that drink the water. That's where the little capillary roots are, not the ones that are close to the trunk. So as the tree matures, you want to be watering a little further away from the trunk, because that's where the roots are spreading, and that's where they need the water, not by the trunk. And that would be like a tree that's maybe 3 or 4 years old, but after that, they're pretty established. They're not. You don't really need to water them anymore.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Yes, thank you so much. I really
Okay.
appreciate it. Does anyone have any other question before we start with Sergeant Taylor from MPD?
That's it. Good luck.
Thanks so much,
Good luck,
you guys.
y'all can, like I said, y'all can use 311 or you can call me directly. I don't mind responding to people directly. DC.gov. Yeah, everybody's like that. DC. It's always their first and last name in DC and gov. Yes, I will come back and I'll bring y'all all business cards if y'all want them, and y'all can have my card.
Request trees.
Yeah, so one of those brochures, I can leave all those brochures. I can leave you like half of them. I can leave you half of them in the brochure to tell you break down all the 311 requests from permanent planting, removal, and everything. So, thank you. I appreciate y'all for having me. Yeah, no problem. Anytime.
Now we have Sergeant Taylor from MPD. Thank you so much.
Okay, yeah. So, I'm sorry. So, last thing, like if anybody or everybody wants to do a tree walk, we could do that. We could walk around the neighborhood and see where is it, like empty spaces or empty locations that where we could put trees so we can put together something like we did in Bloomingdale, a few people and me along. We could like walk different areas along this area. So this is, I guess, everybody's main area. So we can walk along this area and see where empty spaces is, and we can put trees in those empty spaces.
Everybody just let me know if you want a tree walk and we'll schedule.
I got another colleague here. I get a bullshit? I was definitely getting educated. I appreciate it.
And we have my best call. Okay.
All right. Well, first of all, good evening. Sergeant Taylor, I think we've met before. Welcome. So I kind of just wanted to come here, again, kind of get some feedback in terms of concerns that you all have. I'm a newly promoted sergeant, assigned to this PSA, so I'm learning. I'm learning some of the problematic areas as well as some of the glorious areas within the district. So I'm really just kind of coming here just to kind of figure out how we can best assist you. I know it sounds cliche, but I'm a new set of eyes and a new pair of ears in terms of what the community needs. So that's how I'll open the floor to you all. Not all at once. Mm-hmm.
There we go. There were some concerns recently, specifically in here, this part of Trinidad and southern Trinidad, how we haven't seen much police presence because being that it's the colder season, a lot of the bad actors tend to be inside and not be on the block as much as they usually are during the warmer weather. It's not the same for northern Trinidad. Usually when the temperature just gets a little nice, the boys are on the block. But over here, the police presence isn't as strong as northern Trinidad right now. My neighbors are telling me whether they like them or not, they see the police. Over here, some residents are saying we don't see the police on this end of Trinidad. We had a woman say she was held up at gunpoint recently in the past couple of weeks, and it left a mark on her pretty much that she wasn't expecting, especially right here around the rec center. How can we get more visibility, particularly visibility, to the neighbors in this end of the PSA?
Was it a specific time frame that she's saying she's not seeing the police? And I only caveat it with that because we have an overtime designated to this area. So, right. So, obviously there's a lot more traffic on the main thoroughfares because of the weather. But I'm just trying to kind of condense it to a specific time that she's saying that she's not seeing police presence. Because what we can do is we could put that kind of like in a memo for whatever shift it is, and then we can have designated officers just drive through when they're not on assignment and just kind of put their lights in position too where you can see it but you don't hear it, just to kind of deter whatever might have occurred or, hopefully just be visible. So I'm trying to just narrow it down. So.
Well, I guess I would ask, do you know when typically you all are here? I'm assuming during school, maybe drop off pickup, maybe. I
So
saw a car, I don't
here-
know if that was you posted up, but I do see some
That
cars.
actually wasn't me. That was
Okay.
actually a patrol unit that
Okay,
was here.
good.
Right. So I pulled up further down and I, just kind of asked him, was he okay? And he just was like, no, I'm hanging out because
Good.
as a deterrent. It's
Yeah.
funny you say that, but as a deterrent.
And it might be in response to what, because this individual said it directly to the commander. So that might be a response to that concern.
Absolutely.
But just to clarify, while we're having our Trinidad meeting,
So a lot of times the officers will just sit in specific neighborhoods and just kind of do their reports, answer emails, and just to kind of be still on the streets, but not so much visible to a specific concentrated street, just kind of roving around. So, I mean, I guess I wish that I knew exactly the time frame so we can start there and then branch it out, if that makes sense. But I'll definitely keep that in mind. I oversee the evening shift, so I'll definitely put a bug in all my officers' ears in terms of this area. As a matter of fact, I was sitting over here yesterday, just because lights in position too, and it was about, give or take, maybe 2 p.m. It was children playing, with the bicycles and everything, and we had a great engagement. And I just was just driving through and just happened to post up. There was a vehicle that was sitting here. It was 2 occupants in it. Didn't seem like they were doing anything mischievous, but, I mean, they rode out probably about an hour or so after. So, again, if they were doing something, just that presence alone kind of deterred whatever might have occurred. So, but I'll definitely keep it in mind.
and we appreciate the increased levels of presence that the
Sure.
commander has placed in northern Trinidad,
Sure.
particularly Mount Olivet. You guys have been very consistent
Sure.
and always posting up in the shopping centers there.
Absolutely.
The 24/7 store tends to be our biggest problem business that attracts bad actors, and you all typically have been consistent in always having someone there. So we appreciate that. We also have presence on Rom Street every now and then, which we see. I see it on the daily. I get
Rom
some,
is a hot area. Not to cut you off.
Yeah.
Rom, specifically the 11 and 1200 block of Rom, is on our radar.
Mhm.
So we did have a crime camera up there. It was getting vandalized pretty often.
Mhm.
So we had to kind of regroup our resources in terms of putting it in a different area and strategically trying to figure out how we can still deploy some type of surveillance without it being detected. But that definitely is a hotspot area for us between there and that shopping center.
And
which
some,
is
and some of
typically
that, so you're aware, I don't know if MPD is aware, but some of the elders in the community, they're trying to do some mediation with some of those boys on that block, because some of the neighbors as well are, I guess, because of their experience with MPD in the past, they're not too comfortable having a police officer posted up consistently in front of their home. So it's a mixed range in
Sure.
terms of what the presence is. Some people love it, some people hate it, some people just don't care. They're like, well, let's see if anything comes out of it, right? Me as a commissioner, I just like to keep the quality of peace the same or better, and not try to go low. I mentioned this at our last safety meeting in 2022. We had many bodies in that 500-foot area right there in that epicenter of what I call one of the trenches. And 2023, we didn't see as much. 2024, I want it to be entirely better because I see that MPD is kind of disrupt that small part of the ecosystem that attracts bad activity. So what some of the residents might want to see in the future, though, and I think this goes across with DC in general, is instead of just seeing y'all just sit in the car, we come out and start maybe getting to know some of the people around that spot that you guys are consistently parking at, because I think that will draw better, that will build a better bridge with the community than just saying we were there. We were there last night, we were there yesterday. Those are good things, but I think there could be a next step for MPD to build stronger bridges with some of these folks that don't want you there at all. And I'm not talking about the folks that y'all tend to say that they don't want you there because you're messing with their money, and some of the boys, do stuff like that. But I'm talking about like people that have bad experiences and they've hung on to those experiences and don't let them go. I want to see them have just a different change of mind when it comes to you all in your role in the community.
So twofold. I think that it can start with possibly inviting them to a meeting of such so that we can kind of get that intimate one-on-one interaction. But secondly, we have to remember that a lot of times when we do want to interact with them and those bad actors are near, they don't want to talk to us because the perception of them possibly giving out information or, you know, so it's kind of like our hands are pretty much tied.
Mhm.
But I'll definitely, like I said, all these things are jogging through my mind that I would definitely mention.
Thank-
So my name is Sergeant Deb. I'm over here note taking, so please don't think that I'm texting and I'm not engaged in the conversation. Everything my colleague mentioned is what we're trying to improvise. I don't know if you remember, I had an interaction with you before on Mount Olivet. I can't remember the other gentleman's name, but he was complaining about the construction. Yeah, Mr. Lewis.
Mhm.
So what else do you guys want to implement for this PSA?
Market. Do you know, is PSA 506 addressing any calls from there, or is it I think it's 501, or I can't recall what Union Market is right now.
No, 501 is the tip-in. With neighbors, 506 is typically 507.
Like, do you know
Yeah.
how dispatch handles that in terms of something literally on the borderline of PSAs?
Oh, it's just dispatched. The only time it's conflicting if it's in a different district. But PSA-wise, it's just disseminated.
Okay.
Mhm. It's all one.
Right.
It's all one.
So dispatch just pulls it out, and then I think when I did a ride-along, it would show up
Sure.
what PSA.
They try to give it to that PSA officer or officers that are assigned. However, they will disseminate to any particular officer based upon the volume of calls and the demand.
Okay, good to know.
It's not like they would know more than, you know what I mean, than you would
Right.
know, vice versa.
Okay, good.
Is there anything that helps you all out? Like what is helpful from your side?
Yeah. Sure.
Anything is informative. I don't care how small it is. A vehicle that's sitting outside for 10 minutes, 2 minutes, a suspicious person walking down the street, anything. The neighbor left the child in the house alone for a couple of hours. Any little bit of information can be resourceful because you don't know what it leads to.
And just to piggyback off that, I would say that as well as whatever video footage you all might have, whether it be crime cameras, whether it be Ring doorbell, all of those things, whether it be small to you, they might be catastrophic for us, right? In terms of what we can possibly close just from that lookout. That might be, you know, a known suspect that's committing multiple package thefts in the area, you know, vice versa, different type of crimes. So I think, like my colleague said, everything, even the most minute things are resourceful.
How would we submit those videos? What is that current process if we do have some things that we think could be of evidence or beneficial?
Sure. Are you already enrolled in the rebate program that MPD offers in terms of? Okay.
I am a homeowner, correct?
You're familiar, right? Mhm.
Not tenants, homeowners, are allowed to participate in a rebate program where they can get security camera footage, submit that invoice to DC government, and they'll reimburse you. And when you do that program, when you make that exchange, you're automatically allowing MPD to access your camera footage if needed.
What if like your vehicle captures like footage that could be of benefit? How would we submit those things? Because I know I've had a couple in the past that like, or should I just let sit there? Because I was like, you know, but
it captured like a potential crime.
it captured like somebody that was running away from like a scene or something like that. I just didn't really know. I mean, this was on Sims probably about like 2.5 years ago. But I had really just purchased an area, so I wasn't very like,
Sure.
you know.
So I would say just call the dispatch because once you say that, that might be coinciding with the call we just had for whatever. So
That's meaning just calling 911.
yes. if you, go ahead, go ahead.
I mean,
Yeah, no, go ahead.
I was just gonna add to that, if you don't wanna call this your residence, you can always come to a police station
Mhm.
and say, hey, I reside on Sims, and this just came, and let a detective analyze it or download it,
Mm-hmm.
and then proceed from there. Because I know you all might not want the
Yeah.
police coming to your residence.
Because they're watching. Everybody's watching. Just to see how many interactions we have and what type of interactions and when are we having the interactions. I mean,
It's more beneficial to go to the,
It's your company.
it's,
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
it's your
Your
call.
company.
Yeah, nothing?
What you say? I wanna laugh.
It did say where we had some detectives come over because there's a lockbox in front of our house that turned out to be from Chicken and Whiskey in Northwest. So that's why I was laughing.
Yeah.
Just to make use of y'all while you're here, and it's February, just to get on top of things. Sergeant, how can residents be more prepared for block parties that Trinidad typically always attracts during the summer? Not a couple blocks from here, we get a block party regularly on the weekends, and in different parts of northern Trinidad, near the rec center and off of Montello and Rom, we get block parties. So I would let sergeants know. Usually I would call and be like, hey, it's the holiday weekend. We're most likely going to get a lot of people over here, FYI. But what can residents do to kind of prevent y'all being in a situation where there's too many people for you to handle?
Go ahead.
So you kind of engage
Mm-hmm.
how the crowd is coming, right? So if you see initially 20, call when it's a small crowd, because of course later on during the night it will grow, and then let us come out and disseminate the officers to be on the lookout. Essentially, we will shut it down if it's over a certain amount of people outside when it becomes a hazard. Did you want to add it?
Yeah, no, I mean, obviously, if D-Dot is not aware of the party, then we'll definitely go in and disperse. But the watch commander's phone number, I'm sure you all probably have access to that. That would be a great level to start at, because then once they get the phone call, he or she, they'll disseminate that information over the 5th District air, and then we could be in play in terms of, okay, assessing, we have 20 individuals, it seems we're pretty peaceful, put a unit in the area so that they can monitor. We can kind of be ahead of it versus calling when it's mayhem.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You see, anarchy going on. Now we're trying to go in there and reinforce what should have been already enforced. So I would say just start there.
And not to push y'all into answering this, but what is technically peaceful? I could see it. I can understand it. I am a very diverse individual, consciously, but not everyone's like that on the block. So if they call because they saw, a group of 7 folks on the corner, and then y'all show up and then you just roll by and be like, oh, they look cool, and then just leave, that leaves that person that called very bitter. And that's typically a lot of the smoke that we get as ANCs. Well, I called police and they didn't do nothing.
It depends how the call comes out.
Sure.
Individuals congregating on the sidewalk versus, loud music playing from the cars, smoking drug paraphernalia. It just depends how the call is disseminated. Because essentially, if I see 7 individuals, I myself will stop and engage. Nothing wrong with 7 people just hanging out.
Right.
It depends on what's going on.
Okay.
Yeah, I think peaceful is geared towards your perception, because it could be upwards of 30 people that might just be peacefully congregating, and then it could be upwards of 50 people or 10 people that are just causing a nuisance. So I think it's a lot of times, like you said, with that with citizens calling you and being upset, a lot of times we just get anonymous calls. No callback. The person does not want to be interviewed, so we have nowhere to even talk to the individual and figure out why did you even call, in terms of what you felt might have been a hindrance towards your peace. So I think encouraging them, even if they don't want us to come to the location, just provide a phone number so that we can at least talk to them and figure out, okay, what did you see that we didn't see when we rode through? Because of course, when they see us in the block, whatever they were doing, they're gonna cease and dismiss, wave, and and we think it's 10-8. You know what I mean? But you might have saw something that's like, hold on, you guys didn't see what we saw right before you pulled into the block. So just providing a callback number would be very, very helpful.
Guys have something that you would like to see, at least on more of, but whatever that may be.
I mean, we've seen it in the past, particularly during the summer, but I guess, and I know it's more of a difficulty because you guys are low on actual, boots on the ground, but maybe more, just in the future, more of the bike unit and just more, walking the beat, just really walking the beat. Really, it would be really nice to start changing a little bit of the perception MPD gets from our more native neighbors in Trinidad. Sims isn't like it what it used to be. There used to be shootouts of, 50 rounds going off, and this was only right during the pandemic. There was videos on Fox 5 of y'all getting into brawls with neighbors here in Trinidad. That was only like 2 years ago. I personally think it's getting better, but a lot of the folks, especially the newer neighbors that are moving in, the reality is that their capacity for fear is not the same in the folks that have been living here for decades. Very different. So when folks like myself that understand the history and reverence of a lot what the neighborhood's been about, I do recognize the change in the absolute difference, and I do see the quality of life increasing. But typically that's because of gentrification, and that takes a lot of time for it to slowly pick up and move higher. It would just be nicer just to get folks to look at y'all differently, particularly your native Trinidad. Y'all can build these good relationships with these new neighbors because, yeah, if you're not from here and you hear gunshots, that's going to freak you out. Of course it is. And you're going to build a good relationship with MPD to make sure that your family is safe, everyone's safe with you, right? But we still have a lot of folks in the neighborhood that just don't trust y'all. And it's just because of past experiences. Right now, I think 5D is doing really good. Y'all haven't had no real, I haven't seen you on the news like that unless y'all really trying to promote something, and that's great. And I'm just, as a commissioner and the chair of this area, I would just really like to see y'all walk the beat more in specific blocks just to get the perception difference and keep weekend together. Because of that, people will be more open to talk to y'all and share information and stuff like that. I know that's probably something for the commander, but
Yeah, but we're definitely notating what you're saying.
in the neighborhood, I think we're more receptive to it today than we were maybe a year or two ago.
So let me ask, I'm sorry. Let me ask you, where would you like us to start? You had your choice. Where would you like us to start?
At First Street.
I think if you had a talk to Peter and myself,
Can we get the mic to the person, please?
I think she said the mic or something like that.
I think if you could make yourself more present in spaces that a lot of our neighbors consistently are, like, during the hours of school pickup and drop off, or I know there's already a police presence there on Montello, but just right there on Montello, I think is a great one, just because we get a lot of different kind of traffic there from people just using WMATA's buses or just walking on the street. There's a lot of small mom and pop shops there still on Montello, so I think that'll be just a great area. Just because we have a lot of residents that use Montello Avenue, actually, more than Trinidad Avenue. But I think that would just be a suggestion in the future, in the spring, summer, maybe walking that street particularly more. Because I'm not gonna lie, though, when I do see y'all walk the beat, usually y'all are looking for somebody. And if you're not, usually people like myself or other residents in Trinidad would be like, well, why the fuck are they here? What's going on? Like, I want to change that perception with you all. You know what I'm saying?
We used to have outdoor roll call, so I put that down to try to see if the commander would be willing to do that.
Yeah, I think they did that recently in 3D, and I even comment on the picture was like, we need more of this out there. So,
yeah, so we have roll call at our district inside of a community room, so to speak. When we get check in, get your assignment, put out information that transpired the night before or just for the week, things that we're trying to implement. So sometimes we can have that dialogue outside. So we'll see if we can implement a few of those this summer.
I mean, I definitely have read a lot of statistics that community policing brings crime down. Like, I know that Buffalo, New York, which is actually my hometown, a couple of, like, 4 or 5 years after they started community policing, it brought crime down like double digits, and they figured out that that was what did it. And it's also much better for the police because, for you guys, you know, because you get to know people and you get, you know, comfortable with people, and then you be like a helper, you know, you're like the good guys. So community policing is great. I really wish that, like, DC would switch to that. I think it would really help everyone so much and help you guys too.
Was there any other questions from folks on the Zoom? You can use your raise your hand feature and we'll let you speak. If not, we'll let you go because we know your ladies are busy. Oh, okay, no question.
I'll leave my card with you all because this is not PSA. She's a different area, but I still want her to see.
So I'm acting on day work. Right. She's in the evening and on day work.
Which is why I invited her, so the information can be shared through shifts.
Right.
So we're trying to start here, so that we can branch it out there.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
So can we get your name? Okay.
No problem.
I'm Anna.
I'm Jaisi. I live on Rom.
What's your name? Jaisi. That is so quick. I'm like, one word.
And Matt, Andy, we live on Montello and Neil.
Okay.
Does everybody have an alarm system? Okay, good. How to utilize the REAP program if you haven't? What about storm doors?
She can hear.
I'm sorry. Does everybody have a storm door on their back door? You do? Okay, just something to think about. I don't know if you can get to your back from the back. Just something to think about, just an extra protective measure. Okay. All right. Well, you all have a good night. Thank you for hearing us, and thank you for being vocal. Hopefully we can make some changes this summer for the better.
Thank you
All right,
so
thank
much.
you, guys.
Y'all ready? Y'all ready?
Oh, you,
Y'all gonna speak on Bloomingdale, no? Oh, gotcha. I was gonna wait for y'all experiences. Anna, did we have? Yeah. What was next?
What is it?
The mic.
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, any questions? Anybody on Zoom? Anybody? Any questions? Anything? Is there anyone on Zoom, Salvador? Oh, okay. I meant they have questions. Okay. Well, thank you so much, everybody. It's really been a pleasure, and I hope that you guys will tune in and come over here in March. It's March 4th, 5:45 to 7:30. The Zoom will probably start around 6. And like I said, we have the Department of Buildings with Mark Anthony Tynes and Director Hanlon. Both will be here in person. Director Hanlon is the top guy at DOB. And then April 1st, we have Zachary Parker. He will be here in person. So I hope there'll be a big turnout for him too. Thank you so much, everybody. See you next time.
do like a walk around with the trees and everything.
Yeah,
There were definitely things that I